pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we start today's meeting, I'd like to talk about our process. The meeting is being conducted in person as well as by phone and Zoom. This allows participation in person or remotely. We will conduct a roll call to determine who is present. Throughout the meeting, we will call on individual planning commissioners to make sure that everyone has had a chance to be heard. Planning commissioners, please state your name prior to speaking. We will conduct a similar process for comments from the public. We would like to thank everyone for their understanding and patience. Minutes and audio recording will be available on the Planning Commission website. I call this meeting to order of the Crook County Planning Commission to order. Today's date is September 24th, 2025. The time is 4:02 p.m. People joining me are your Crook County Planning Commissioners. We are volunteers that have been appointed by the Board of County Commissioners and make up a diverse cross-section of the community. Planning Commission will consider the following agenda items. Continuation of the public hearing for deliberations only on file number 217-24-000293 PLNG. Number 2, public hearing for the Transportation System Plan update. Number 3, Community Development Department updates. Next is a roll call for the Planning Commissioners. George Font.
Present.
Mauro Dill.
Present.
Rita Steck. Did you say she's online or was going to try to be online?
I do not see her online.
Hunter Newhart.
Here.
Kurt Jovadini.
Here.
Russ Williamson's here. And Michael Warren is here. For commissioners who are absent, will staff please indicate for the record which absences are excused or unexcused?
They're both excused.
Okay. Is there anyone in the meeting room or participating remotely that wishes to address an item not on the agenda? If attending remotely, please enter your request to speak in the chat function. Okay, hearing and seeing none, we will now mute the phone lines for those who are not staff or commissioners and move on to the first agenda item. Public hearing. At this time, we will hear from staff regarding the investigation and the request to postpone deliberations. Sean to present.
Present might be too strong a word, but so commissioners, if you remember last time, for the record, John, I was the community development director. The last time this was on the agenda, I informed the commission that something had come to our attention and we needed to do a little bit of due diligence before we were able to provide a recommendation for you guys to begin deliberations. That has mostly concluded. And so at this point, the record is closed. If you remember this, we are just open for deliberations at this point. The issue was that there was a deed that came across our desk that basically transferred ownership and changed the property lines. And so the facts, as you guys have before them, are a little bit different than what they are in the application. I'm sure you guys are familiar with the goalpost rule. Basically, an applicant is entitled to the standards and laws in place at the time of the application. Which case law, and that doesn't apply to facts on the ground, right? If the facts on the ground change, then the party should have a chance to address those, discuss them, and the planning commission has the right to have the correct information as they make their deliberations. And so the deed itself, like I said, it changed the property boundaries from what you guys had before you in the application. It changed who the applicant was. You know, someone can make an argument that CUPs run the land. They are what they call a permit to the land instead of conditional use permit. So in order to change, they don't need to come back and apply for a new permit, right? A conditional use permit is a property right. That property right attaches once they get CUP approval. We're not at that phase yet. We are still at the application phase. And so it is my opinion that this information is relevant at least to a certain extent. Am I supposed to read stuff or?
Yeah, go for it.
And so, reopening the record at this point is entirely up to the discretion of the planning commission. Where we are in this hearing, we've closed the record, and so this is at, Crook County Code 18-172-081, sub 18. And so when the hearing authority reopens the record to admit new evidence, arguments, or testimony, the hearing authority must allow people who previously participated in the hearing to request the hearing record be reopened as necessary to present evidence concerning the newly presented facts. Upon announcement by the hearing authority of their intention to take notice of such facts in its deliberations, any person may raise new issues which relate to the new evidence, arguments, testimony, or standards and criteria which apply to the matter at issue. And so, this is kind of a complicated matter. I don't think it's necessary or appropriate to reopen the record completely. I think at this point, based on the information regarding property ownership and updated information from the assessor's office in the state of Oregon that we now have, the question is, does the planning commission want to reopen the record to allow for the additional materials and evidence to be included in the record? Does the planning commission feel that the change in ownership would affect the findings, and therefore, in order to deliberate and make a decision on the record, to reopen it? And so, at this point, as your planning director, I think I would recommend, it would make sense to reopen the record, at least for us to present the materials that we've received as far as, the authorization form that has the new owner, the new deeds. We just, today sent out the final decision for a legal parcel verification. That was kind of the big holdup, is I wanted to make sure these were legal parcels that we were looking at. We can't give a conditional use permit to an illegal unit of land. That issue has at least been resolved, but I think there's still some issues that I think would be relevant for you guys, at least for the decision to be accurate. Listing the right owner, having the right property boundaries, all that type of stuff, I think is important to be in the conditional use permit decision.
So you're like, okay, so my couple questions, I guess. I don't see how we can deliberate without having that information in the file. I mean, but did the change in ownership happen during?
In the period between the application and that last hearing, yes.
So just bear with me, make sure I ask this right. How could the application be valid without having the proper property owner allowing? I mean, you have to have approval from the property owner. I mean, maybe they all did that, but I mean, we don't have anything in front of us that says.
So the documents that I want included in the record.
Okay. Well, I don't wanna, I'm open to conversation, but I wanna see what you all think.
Seems to me that if the property lines have changed, then we definitely need to take that into account.
There's a couple big issues, I
Yeah.
think, that have to be in the
Because
record. for sure.
I mean, there may be proximity issues.
So you're absolutely right. And so the way I see things is we would then supplement the record. Basically, the planning commission, into their motion, to give us 7 days to supplement the record with these additional materials that are relevant to the decision. Then the parties need a chance to respond. The parties that were, actually, we reopen, anybody can respond, but they need to be limited to basically the new issues that were raised. And so it's about the property owner, about the boundary lines. At that point, then, at the next hearing, you guys could then reclose the record and deliberate, or you could then at that point say, with this new material, we feel it's prudent to reopen the record to a greater extent to then consider some of maybe the other factors that are important in the decision. But for now, I think it's prudent to only open the record to allow staff to supplement as necessary.
Yeah, I mean, I think all that stuff has to be in the record. Anybody else have any
Well, I agree.
thoughts?
Yeah, I think it has to be in the record as well, because what we have is not accurate. So, yeah.
Okay, so what,
I can make the motion.
do we need to make a motion, and you
Yeah.
want the 777 within the motion?
Yeah, so, those dates, so when you're making the motion, the first date would be October 1st 4 PM would be the first 7 days. Second 7 days would be October 8th at 4 PM. The final 7 would be October 15th. Setting the next hearing then would be October 22nd.
Okay, before you make the motion, John, would you, because I'm pretty sure all three of these guys have not ever dealt with the 777. Can you just you kind of did, but can you give a little more explanation?
On the 777?
Yeah,
Okay, so, and it's kind of unique in the circumstance. Usually it's a party requesting that the record gets reopened, and so the 7 days, the initial 7 days is for them to submit. And so, you know, we would be submitting the new information in the first 7 days. After that 7 days, then any party has a chance to respond to that information. And then the initial the first party with the first 7 days then has a chance to do a final rebuttal of that last information on the last 7 days.
so typically on something like this, anybody could ask for the 777, so I just want to make sure, because you guys haven't dealt with that yet.
I'm sorry, I stand corrected. The first 7 days, anybody can submit new information, but it's relevant to the motion.
Relevant to
Yeah,
the new material.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Make a motion to reopen the record number 21724-000293
Commissioner York, I would recommend, we need to add a caveat that we're reopening the record for the limited purpose of property ownership boundary lines at this point.
So go ahead and add that.
Want to start over? Or just like,
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to reopen the record number 217-24-000293 for the limited purpose for the new property owner. And boundary lines.
Is that good? And add that invoking the,
And Vulcan the 777.
okay, we have a motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, I'll call for the vote. Kurt?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Marlo?
I,
Hunter?
Aye.
Okay. Maybe we should ask this before we made the motion. The 7 days give you guys enough time to get it in. You have what you need. It's just not in the record.
We have what we need.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I guess we skipped that part. But we really don't need to talk about ex parte. Katie, help me out here. Since we're not doing any.
So
of
we
that,
could just go to the next
we'll
item on
just
the
go to the
agenda.
next, right?
Yep,
The next item is purely legislative.
yeah, so page 4.
Okay. So the next item, number 2, transportation system plan public hearing. We'll now move to the second item on the agenda for a public hearing for record number 217-25-000289 PLNG legislative amendment. Legislative amendment to the county's comprehensive plan to update the transportation system plan pursuant to OAR 660-012 and statewide planning goal 12. The TSP is one of the planning requirements for the counties to plan a safe, convenient, and economical transportation system. This TSP will replace the county's existing TSP. This TSP plan will plan for the next 20 years of the county growth and transportation needs, including multi-modal travel, necessary connections, and preferred capital improvements. Applicable criteria, the hearing is being held pursuant to Crook County Code 18.168 legislative amendment. Planning Commission will be evaluating the request against the following applicable criteria. Crook County Code Title 18, Chapter 168, Crook County Comprehensive Plan, Oregon Administrative Rules, and Oregon Revised Statutes. Order proceedings before opening for testimony, either in person or for those participating remotely. I want to remind everyone that all testimony must be directed to the applicable approval criteria and standards. No person may testify without first receiving recognition from the hearing authority and stating their full name and address for the record. No person may present irrelevant, immaterial, or unduly repetitious testimony or evidence. Do not repeat testimony. Commission may set time limits on oral testimony. Does any commission member or of the commission wish to impose a time limit for testimony?
No.
Anybody else? Okay. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence with enough detail to give the hearing authority and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the Land Use Boards of Appeals on that issue. Failure to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with detailed specificity to allow the hearing authority to respond to the issues preclude the applicant from seeking action for damages in the circuit court. At the conclusion of the hearing pursuant to Crook County Code 18.172.081, the Planning Commission may consider any request to continue the hearing or leave the written record open. At this point, there's no request. We will start the hearing with staff presentation. After that, testimony from any federal, state, or local agencies will be allowed. And then we'll have opportunity for the applicant to speak. Individuals in support of the proposal will be heard, then those neutral of the proposals. Next, individuals opposed to the proposal will be heard. The applicant can then offer rebuttal. Before we go to staff's presentation, if there's anybody in the audience that wants to speak on this, there's a little forms out there. You have to fill out the little form and give it to Katie. Just, do you want to speak? For, against, neutral, just want to comment, but we would need that form before we could call upon you to speak. And those online, you would just put your request in at that time in the chat function.
Okay.
Okay, staff, take it away.
All right, so we have before you, the transportation system plan draft. This is something that staff and our consultant has been working on for a very long time. We had a work session on this recently. So what's new since the last work session is we have an updated draft for you guys to review. And then we got 4 comments today. The comments all kind of relate to the preferred route for the Juniper Canyon exit, which you remember is that far northwestern route that then connects to the River Highway, Highway 27. I don't want to, the comments in the record, they can speak for themselves. If I can just kind of summarize broadly what their main concerns are. It seems like there's some misinformation in their statements. So I don't know if they have reviewed the record in materials, but basically, how did we land on this one route? And about the public process and about their ability to comment. And so I just want to address those real briefly. Aaron can address those as well. How we landed on that route is in the Juniper Canyon memo, which is in the appendices. I think it's Appendix E, I believe, and that's all on our website if they want to pull that information up. One of the big concerns is the increase in traffic that this would then create on Highway 27 going up on the fairgrounds. That is a legitimate concern. One of the reasons this route was chosen over the just expanding the Juniper Canyon Highway as it is that intersection, Juniper Canyon Highway intersection, that intersection is going to fail as well. So part of it is there's not a perfect solution to any of this. If there was, we would have had a solution figured out many years ago. Everything we're doing at this point is a compromise of one degree or another. Another reason was the cost. For widening Juniper Canyon Road was one of the most expensive options, and the preferred route is, I believe, the least expensive option. And a third main reason is the ability for emergency services then to have an alternative route to get up there to Juniper Canyon when they need to. All this information is in the documents that are provided in the draft TSP. I just want to make sure that they have that information now, so they can respond if they're on the phone or online willing to comment today. Ryan Farcombe, the one who's been leading this on the behalf of Parametrics, our consultant, is not in today. Instead, we have Erin David. I don't know if she's presented before you guys yet or not, but she's also fantastic, and she's also assisting the county on our transportation safety action plan. But she's here tonight to present on the draft TSP. A final reminder is, as this is legislative, it will be passed via an ordinance. So your decision today is to make a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. Board of Commissioners will then hear this matter de novo, meaning basically starting from scratch, leaning on your recommendation, but the evidence, the record will be entirely open for at least 2 more public hearings, at least 14 days apart. So your decision today is merely a recommendation to the Planning Commission or to the Board of Commissioners, not a final decision. Are there any other questions before I?
No, I'm glad you said that, because I wanted to make sure it's on the record clear that we're not approving any of this.
Right,
We're just approving to move it on to the county commissioners
correct.
so they can start their hearing process.
Exactly. This is still even, it's the draft at this point. So, we have to present you guys with something. And so this is the point. This is how the public process works. We present the draft. We get public comment on the draft as it stands. You guys hear that. You guys are free to make any recommendations that you want as far as changing what we have in this draft. And then it goes to the Board of Commissioners, and that process starts all over again. So we have a document that reflects the will of the people and makes sense. As this is supposed to be a planning document to last us for the next 20 years. So it's important that we get that information. I'm very grateful for these new comments. They are important and they are relevant. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to Erin.
Great. I'm going to get my screen shared. I think I have that.
We should do the staff part.
They're technically, we're the applicant.
Okay, I'm just,
yeah.
I didn't know if we needed to hear from. Okay. All right, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No problem. I just want to confirm you can see the presentation slides, correct?
We can, Erin. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, as John mentioned, my name is Erin David. I'm a transportation planner with Parametrics. I've been assisting Parametrics team with Ryan Farncombe, who I know met with you recently. I am the deputy project manager and I've been involved with this project since the beginning. And so I will walk through a similar presentation to what we talked through in the work session with just the few updates that John mentioned. So to get started, just again, an overview of what the TSP is. This is the long-range transportation plan that addresses needs for all modes of travel for the next 20 years. So starting now, looking 20 years into the future. And we are using this plan to help you prioritize projects, make sure that the county is complying with state rules, and really setting out what the expected needs are for those next 20 years. Through this process, we've had a special focus on enhancing connectivity and improving safety for all modes of travel. We know safety is a critical concern for the community, and this has been backed through our data analysis. So wanting to help make sure we're advancing safety and connectivity for all modes. We also were looking to address safety issues and congestion in certain areas of concern, specifically Powell Butte. The intersection of 126 and Powell Butte Highway was a key focus area, as was developing near-term options for emergency access and addressing congestion for the Juniper Canyon area. This updates the most recent TSP, which was done in 2017. It's a relatively quick turn to have an update, but we know that the county has grown more substantially than was originally projected in that 2017 TSP. And so our efforts were to incorporate those new numbers and really understand the needs moving forward based on those recent trends. The goals for the TSP really draw, again, from that 2017 transportation system plan, and there are 7 goals listed here: mobility and connectivity, economic development, safety, multimodal users, the environment, planning and funding, and equity. There are more details with objectives and policies that support each of these goals, but these were brought forth to the community for opportunities to comment and help shape. And generally, there was support for these 7 goals for the TSP. So to talk through our engagement process, we did have a project advisory committee who helped review documents and milestones and provide input throughout the process. We had 2 total meetings and then also made documents available for review. And then we had 3 main milestones of community engagement. This was originally planned to be 2, and we adapted the process to help respond to what we learned in milestone 2 and additional feedback from the community. So our first milestone was in February of 2024. We held in-person open houses. We had a survey and had information available online with an open comment form for folks to share back their thoughts on just what sort of the needs in the transportation system are and what the biggest priorities are. Our second milestone was in fall of 2024, so between October and November. Again, we held in-person open houses, had an online survey, had information available online for folks who couldn't join the open houses, and had opportunities to share comments on our draft projects and confirming priorities. The third milestone was earlier this year, so in spring, April and May, we held an in-person public meeting regarding the Juniper Canyon alignment. We also held an open house about the broader TSP process to confirm that we had the right priority projects. And this also included, again, survey materials were shared online, and there were opportunities to provide feedback online if you were unable to attend. This August, county staff also held a separate meeting regarding Juniper Canyon alignments that fed into our overall recommendations and the summary that's been shared with you. Across all of our events, we connected with more than 500 people in person. This included responses to surveys and other inputs through email communication as well, just expanding that 500 number. Throughout every milestone, we routinely heard that safety is one of the top community priorities. Even when folks were referencing that there may be congestion, there was ultimately a concern for how people can travel safely throughout the community. We also routinely heard that the intersection of Powell Butte Highway and 126 and Juniper Canyon access were key project priorities. Right, so recommended improvements, I'll highlight several key projects, and then we also have a comprehensive list of the improvements as well. So starting first with roadway and intersection improvements, this includes intersection and operations, access management, as well as bridges. So the first project is looking at the OR 126 and Powell Butte Highway intersection. The solution or the recommended project here is to install a single lane roundabout. This helps maintain turning movements and reducing turning conflicts, so responding to safety concerns at the intersection. It also helps to reduce traffic delays in the near term. Ultimately, the intersection becomes easier to navigate, help facilitating the turns off of Powell Butte Highway that we know are challenging today, and allows for reconsidered access for the post office, which we know is a key community asset and destination. Ultimately, we did look at a single lane and a dual lane roundabout. Community preference was for the single lane, and also the expected cost is less for the single lane than the dual lane. So about $3.4 million is the planning level estimate for that roundabout. The second project, looking at the intersection of 126 and Southwest Williams Road. This is a location where we know that traffic is expected to increase, and meeting the standards that the state sets out for congestion, this intersection does not is not expected to meet that in the future. There's also nearby destinations like the school, the church, the country store that are attractors for people. So there's a lot of activity happening here, and speeding and safety are key concerns. So the recommended improvement here is, again, a single lane roundabout to improve safety performance for all modes, help calm traffic, and just improve access. This will be a similar cost to the first location we looked at, but again, provides very similar benefits for this intersection. The next two projects are looking at the Juniper Canyon access. The map on the right shows the sort of universe of alternatives that we were evaluating throughout this process, but we know that the Juniper Canyon community is growing. In recent years, that's been about 50 new housing units each year, and there's continued projections for that growth to continue. With Juniper Canyon being the primary access road, this limits options if the route is closed for some reason. It also can affect emergency response. And then we know there are also the concerns around how to evacuate the community if there is a need. Another concern in this location regarding congestion is then its effects on increasing congestion as we enter into Prineville, and how that traffic then moves from Juniper Canyon into the community and on to final destinations. There are two recommendations that are coming from this analysis. So the first looks at an alternative that connects to OR 27 from Davis Loop. And this would help respond to some of the congestion concerns and alternative access routes. This is a previously vetted alternative in prior studies and engagement opportunities through this effort. It is expected to help relieve congestion along Juniper Canyon and provides additional travel options for emergency response. The cost estimate includes a really wide range. There's significant topography and other considerations that can affect that ultimate cost in the end. So the range is meant to help capture those potential challenges or other opportunities. And so again, this is a connection that is further north in the community and is really geared towards helping address the congestion concerns for Juniper Canyon. The second route seeks to respond more to the emergency evacuation opportunities. So this is further south along Juniper Canyon Road and links up with Simpson Road and connects then to 380, Oregon 380. This would be a gravel roadway that provides an emergency evacuation route as its primary purpose. It is located primarily on BLM, Bureau of Land Management land. And it does have significant topography challenges. And so for this and its greater length, we see that there is a much higher cost associated with this link, but we did want to include an option that responds to those evacuation concerns. The next project is looking at the intersection of Juniper Canyon with OR 380. This is an area where the current configuration, the skew of the intersection, the angle really limits the sight distance, creating safety concerns and affects turning movements and ultimately delay at the intersection. Looking into the future, it is not expected to meet ODOT standard for congestion and mobility. And so the recommended improvement is to realign the intersection, including acceleration lanes. This helps to improve safety and retains all of the existing turning movements, but also would allow for accommodation of farm and freight vehicles, really responding to different sized vehicle needs in this area. It helps to reduce conflict points, reduces traffic congestion, and helps to meet sort of the key needs and issues that we've uncovered through data and community feedback. The next project is at OR 126 and Parish Lane. This is another location where future projections show that it is not expected to meet ODOT standards for congestion. And with no dedicated left turn lane currently to access Southwest Parish Lane, there are delays and concerns around visibility. So the solution would be to widen OR 126 between Valley View Road and Stillman Road to allow for a center two-way left turn lane. This responds to traffic congestion and delay. And it also includes an opportunity to add medians or other physical markers that could help slow driving in approaching the intersections and help respond to some of the safety concerns around speeding. Just a quick look of what that would look like. Again, Valley View Road to Stillman Road. And then finally looking at bridges. So there are 3 bridges that were identified in the 2017 TSP that were listed for replacement that have not been yet replaced. And so these are brought forward into this plan. And we are also bringing forward the continuation of the bridge replacement program for bridges that are not on the National Bridge Inventory. Historically, this has been about one bridge per year that the county has looked at. And so that that recommendation is continued in this plan. There's also the study that is brought forward from the 2017 plan to repair or replace County Road 221 bridge over Paulina Creek. Our analysis looked at safety trends, primarily driven through crash analysis, looking at the most recent 5 years of crash data and informed also by community input. So the projects that we've identified here seek to address locations that have higher than expected crash rates, were key locations identified by the community, and also bringing forward, again, safety improvements that were identified in the previous TSP. Some of those locations include the intersection of Powell Butte Highway and Southwest Bussert Road. We know that this intersection is complex and poses a number of safety challenges. So to help improve visibility and awareness and simplify travel patterns, we're recommending to realign the intersection, but also including acceleration lanes, acknowledging the different vehicle types and sizes that would be using this location. It helps respond to and mitigate inclement weather conditions and associated safety challenges as well, and is anticipated to help reduce the high incidence of roadway departure crashes that were occurring in this location. The TSP also includes a number of safety improvements in a sort of toolbox format. So there are common crash conditions that we found in the crash data, including inclement weather, curves, and speeding. And so this range of treatments and example locations of where they might apply are included for options as different projects move forward or as new opportunities arise to implement different changes in these locations. The TSP also identifies a number of active transportation improvements for the pedestrian network in particular, looking at the vicinity of OR 126 and Southwest Williams Road, installing sidewalks, curb gutter, curb ramps, lighting, and marked crosswalks, really helping to bring a more pedestrian element to this location. By adding these elements, it also is expected to help just draw more attention to the users are in this area and can have implications for helping slow traffic and calm traffic in this location. We've brought forward several bicycle recommendations as well from the 2017 TSP and have thought through the areas where we know shared use paths in particular are going to be most beneficial. And so those are shown on the right on the map, and those include OR 126 from Powell Butte Highway to the Prineville UGB, Barnes Butte Road to the Iron Horse Path, US 26 from the existing path to the county line, Houston Lake Road, Williams Road, and Rafe Road, and then the planned path along OR 27 into Prineville. There's also several opportunities for adding paved shoulders, so wider shoulders that can be more beneficial on lower volume roadways, so Barnes Butte Road and Jeeper Canyon Road, and then additional supporting elements like a bicycle hub, so places to gather information, or bicycle route signage to help folks navigate. The TSP also lists a number of public transportation improvements. These are primarily brought forward from the Cascades East Transit Service Enhancement Plan and reflect what was included in the 2017 TSP as well. Two freight projects, both were included in the 2017 TSP and are brought forward. This includes Bus Evans Road and Elliott Lane reconstruction to freight route standards, and a feasibility study of the US 26 Railroad Bridge to understand the ability to accommodate oversized loads. And then based on the questions that I know were asked during the last work session, I have a few slides on the connection to Prineville TSP and several of the projects that are included there. So I will quickly go through those pieces. So Prineville recently completed their TSP update as well. That was earlier this year. They do include a number of projects that seek to improve east-west connections through the city, and particularly significant investment around the proposed West Y, as well as new street connections that help take the pressure off of 3rd Street. So looking at the West Y, this does include roundabout to help address safety and congestion. It also generally just increases overall throughput, helping move traffic through the area, again, reducing congestion. It does also include bicycle and pedestrian facilities. These are shown in green on the map, but to help improve transportation options for all modes of travel in this location. At O'Neill Highway, the TSP for Prineville includes intersection reconfiguration to help reduce the turning crashes. And as traffic volumes increase, this new configuration would also help handle that increased congestion in the area. So really reconfiguring to help separate out the left turning movement and improve visibility for people who are seeking to turn left in this location. The TSP includes a number of other projects, both focused on safety and traffic operations. So widening Comfort Road between Lynn and 3rd Street to arterial standards is included to help create better connections and better respond to traffic congestion. And then the intersection of Lynn and Comfort in the near term, adding lighting, signage, improving sight distance, and then in the future, evaluating what intersection control might be most appropriate there, whether that's a signal or a roundabout. Those types of pieces are the intersection control. So really evaluating what's needed in the future. So this is looking more broadly at the 3rd Street corridor. And so the West Y interchange improvements that were discussed. Additionally, sidewalk infill and enhanced pedestrian crossings moving towards the east. And then along this entire corridor, working closely with ODOT on signal upgrades, implementation of the access management plan, and other multimodal improvements. A key note here is that along 3rd, bicycle facilities are not incorporated, but instead are using parallel routes to the north and the south of 3rd. One piece I do want to note is the Comfort extension had impacts on several of the projects or the needs that were identified in the TSP development. So for instance, the intersection with Main, which I know has implications for the Juniper Canyon alignments that I shared earlier. While that intersection was shown to have congestion concerns in the near term, the completion of the Comfort extension and the distribution of traffic in other locations instead of just along 3rd helps relieve those concerns for the future conditions. There are also a number of other new connections that are recommended, really with the intention of helping to reduce traffic on 3rd Street to respond to congestion concerns of the through traffic in Prineville. Great. And so I do have in this document a summary of all of the projects that are included. These are also shown in the project lists in the TSP document. These cover many of what we've talked about today, as well as some of the additional details around the other safety projects, for example, and other projects that were brought forward from the previous TSP. So I'm not going to read all of the tables to you, but we can certainly take a look at these as needed. And I'll just page through them quickly. The bridge projects, additional safety projects. bicycle projects. And so then final piece, so funding and implementation, we developed planning level cost estimates for each of the projects proposed. And in total, the projects add up to about $112.9 million. This includes $27.5 million of projects that are in partnership with ODOT, so along ODOT roadways or including ODOT intersections. But that means that there are over $85 million of locally led projects within the TSP. There are no dedicated sources of funding for transportation, and so there are new funding sources that are needed at the county level to help improve and enact these locally led projects. There are a number of different funding opportunities and sources. So certainly there are the grants at the federal and state level, things like BUILD, the BUILD grant at the federal level, or including statewide transportation improvement program projects at the state level. And then also local options such as system development charges, the general fund, local improvement districts or special road districts. There are a number of options that are outlined in the TSP for consideration. And then just broadly, how do projects get done? So if there are smaller projects that are locally led, the county can take the lead and move these projects forward using local funds if they're available. More major projects, including those that involve partners like the state, like ODOT or BLM, working through identifying possible funding sources, knowing that projects are often developed in phases. It does require building a coalition and gaining support among those partners. Stages include refining the project, understanding better the costs, and moving towards design. Likely includes additional public outreach and can take multiple years to complete. So seeking grants is a key opportunity, recognizing that some grants have more substantial requirements than others. But there are new grant opportunities or other sources of funding that become available. So being opportunistic in how projects are approached. And then, of course, seeking how to partner with development such as SDCs. And just quickly what our next steps are. So this is the Planning Commission hearing. As John mentioned, we have Board of Commissioner hearings on October 1st and October 15th that will move towards finalizing the TSP document. And with that, that concludes the presentation.
Thank you, Erin. That was very good. I guess I just want to add from, if you're new to this, we've discussed this before, but this is a planning document. This document doesn't mean that these projects are going to be built tomorrow. It doesn't even mean these projects will necessarily be built. One of the main reasons for this is redoing the TSP at this point is the county counties grow. But we currently don't have a dedicated bucket of money for these type of capital improvement projects. And so we need a planning document to point to if a grant does come available, or to show to ODOT to say, here's what we need and why we need it. And so these projects, even in the near term, we need to make sure we can fund them. And so that's a big part of this project. And even if it's in here, it doesn't mean it's written in stone. It can still be changed during the design review process. So with that, I'll just, I guess, add on existing input from the community. We did have a survey, Aaron. I think I think you might have mentioned how many people responded. But in the survey, basically there was about 90% approval for supporting the projects that were in the TSP. So very broad support on that. There was 88.8% support for the Highway 126 Powell Butte intersection as the most important project and needed to be dealt with first. Remember, we discussed that there is currently a developer that is supposed to contribute funds to that we need to work through, but so that one hopefully we can get going sooner rather than later because it's very urgent. There were separate questions specific to Juniper Canyon. So the way these were worded, they worded great, but so I don't know if people take everything in consideration when they answer. So the number one selected preferred route on the survey was widening Juniper Canyon Road at 39%. The second highest rated option was the preferred route that we have in this document, W01A. Moving forward, there were other questions asked about, do you support a new access route if it requires new local taxes or local revenue? There, the highest answer was other, which I think means they maybe needed more information. The second highest was no at 32.7%. Just behind that was yes at 32.1%. Table 3 asked which funding options would you be open to for improvements in Juniper Canyon? The number one answer was system development charges, SDCs at 54.5%. The second highest was grants at 53.8%. General fund was 34.3%, and then last was 30.1%. And grants are getting more and more difficult to get these days. It's very competitive. Discussions with ODOT, they currently don't have really any money for these types of improvements. And then our general fund, like I said, there currently is not a bucket of money in there, and so being cost sensitive is extremely important as we set this plan out at this stage. So
Why was the general fund a option? In, I mean, it just, I mean, literally, there's not that kind of money in there.
yeah, there's not that kind of money in
I
there.
was just curious,
Yeah,
just to give people, I guess, what their thoughts were.
yeah, what their thoughts are. So with that, I think that's all that staff has.
It's just because we see this a lot, and there's been a lot of questions. I think it was even in some of these last exhibits. And I don't know if, and maybe an answer has been given of why they don't choose the unimproved road that goes north along the reservoir out to highway as an emergency.
That was in there. Which route is that?
I don't remember the number, but
8.
No, 8 is the one that goes down by the dam going west. I think it was.
EO5, I believe.
And so EO5, the gravel road, so the considerations in here, they would provide emergency evacuation benefit only. It would add significant out of direction travel. It does provide a good evacuation benefit. The cost on that one is in order to build it up to standards, was at $60 million to $128 million. There are also wildlife issues, and so it would only be able to be open seasonally, which is the same as the other evacuation route that we have. But so in a perfect world, I think the route 8 would be the best one at the very south end that heads west, and then they could hop onto Alfalfa and avoid Prineville altogether as an evacuation route. That one also has an enormous price tag, and then you run into the federal wild and scenic rivers issue, and so it makes that one untenable. And so, as I said in the beginning, the selection here is a series of compromises, trying to find something so we can move forward instead of letting perfect be the enemy of good.
And I think that's just important as we send this to the commissioners, that these are probably gonna be things that are gonna be asked.
Yeah, they should be discussed.
You know, cause the one route for just the evacuation that headed out Simpson Road. That seems like huge costs, you know, for those that know that area.
Yeah.
You know,
Like the cost estimate is high.
yeah.
Yeah, very high,
Yeah.
right?
The cost estimate came in a lot higher than we were expecting. Our road superintendent still feels like that can be
Like
accomplished
it can
for.
be wrong, it's that high,
Yeah.
like, what, yeah.
And again, we wouldn't move forward without being able to fund it. We're not gonna move forward if it is at that high end of the cost estimate. We get firmer numbers.
So as this does go forward, any comments, this all goes in a package with all of our exhibits, everything that gets brought up tonight will go forward to the commissioners along with this.
Yeah, so the way this will, your recommendation, however that goes, staff will present a memo, kind of a staff report with including the recommendation, the discussion, the points from the hearing tonight. And then that goes as a package with the transportation system plan to the board for 2 additional hearings.
Any other questions for staff?
I do have one question about the 126 View roundabout. When you say a one-lane roundabout, does that exclude or prohibit? Don't know how to describe it, a protected right-hand turn lane? I mean, I understand one lane going around the circle, but if you were gonna make a right-hand turn, could you have a lane for doing that?
You don't have to enter the circle.
You don't have to actually really enter the circle.
Yeah, let Aaron speak to that. My impression is that it's just the single lane, like you said, you go through it and are able to turn. Aaron?
Yeah, at this phase, we were thinking of it being purely single lane. The graphic that I shared, it uses that as the template to understand the impacts of space, which was a consideration also at looking at the single lane. But of course, this is very high level concept to understand what can fit and what does that mean for traffic operations. And so what is included in the end and how much it costs ultimately is refined through that design process. Does that, let me know if there's other questions there I can help answer.
For Joe Benini, what will be the speed limit? Wondering from like the road, I'm having a hard time getting behind the whole idea of roundabouts. It seems like it makes things faster and my kids go to Powell Butte. What's gonna be the speed limit between all this? Is it, I mean, it seems like we're turning our town into Bend by putting these in there, in my opinion.
So generally, once you go into a roundabout, especially with a single lane, the speed is meant to slow down. So currently, I think that roadway is signed at 45 miles in that location. And the idea is that it would slow to a speed closer to 30. The idea of having to, navigate the roundabout, the turning movements that are required and the yielding that goes along with that, is meant to be more of a traffic calming measure, and it does help slow traffic down because it is no longer just a straight shot that folks are traveling on. There is a change in the way that you are moving through the roadway.
And what kind of designs in your plan have been looked at for like big semi trucks as far as making that move, getting off on some of those littler places? Is there gonna be turn lanes and all the other roads in between there?
So for the intersection at 126 and Powell Butte Highway, we did look at turning movements for what is a WB 67, so a standard large truck for that template. The final design and exactly how those pieces are constructed are part of that final design process. So we are looking at it at a high level to make sure there are no major concerns in how freight traffic or larger vehicles can navigate these locations. But as that design gets refined, those templates would need to continue to be looked at to make sure those turning movements are included or accommodated for.
Okay, thank you.
This is Hunter Newhart. I have a quick question about the Juniper Canyon. Seems like a lot of people want to have 4 lanes coming in and out. What was the cost estimate on that?
Let me pull up the reference just so I am giving you the right information.
There, it's 57.7 million to 123.6 million.
Widespread on expectations there. Okay.
And these are current day numbers, right? And so if it couldn't be constructed 10 years from now, who knows?
Yeah, because that kind of would adjust where we want to do on the 380 to Juniper Canyon intersection. Because if you do plan on a 4-way lane, how exactly do you want to have the bottom there? Do you want a light? Do you want a roundabout? I don't know about. That seems like it's right there. It's gonna be hard for the Sigmans where they have their hay barn there to get out. But the first one just seems like it might be a little steep for the big logging trucks that come in and out. So there's 4 different exhibits for different possibilities for that intersection there, so.
Well, and I'm hoping that this will bring comments to the hearings that Board of Commissioners have, but any other questions for staff? Okay, Russ, did you have something?
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. Russ Boot, I'm the fire marshal for Crook County Fire and Rescue. This is current TSP update. Between this and the cities over the years, this is probably my fifth or sixth TSP update. And so I just wanted a couple of comments. I thought Parametrics did a great job organizing this process. It spans over a year. The community folks, not just kind of the steering committee, but also public comment is gathered. And I know you guys folks get it, but you can get a wide range of opinions. And trying to distill those into a meaningful document that can live for 5 or 10 years and have actual impact on our community is difficult. So kudos really to everybody that participated in that process. I thought it was well done. On the plan itself, the fire district certainly supports the county's TSP draft update. I want to kind of remind folks that are listening online in the grandstands here with me and commissioners. The TSPs, we're not approving design standards. We're looking at concepts to solve growing problems in our community. And so I myself sometimes find myself mired down into the nitty gritty of how is this truly going to function, but really I have to pull myself back out and realize that we're really just talking about solutions to tough concepts. And so a lot of it may not be vetted out, like particular designs. What is it actually going to look like in 5, 10 years when it's constructed? It may look very different because between now and then, who knows what's going to happen and the need for, quite honestly, for an example, maybe in 5 years, the roundabout at the Powell Butte Highway intersection needs to be a double lane roundabout. But right now, with the data we have and the input we've received, this is just the best process for it. It doesn't mean that we can't build the double lane in the future. It just means right now, this is just kind of the planning objective for that particular area. Specifically to the emergency egress out of Juniper Canyon, the fire district has spoke many times. We certainly support the county's and the community's interest in looking into that. From a pure fire safety standpoint, it's a nice to have, not a need to have. And so I think there's still some massaging to be done, in particular if we're talking specifically about an emergency egress route. However, the fire district is very supportive of this process, identifying opportunities to meet that need of the community that would like to have something. I just think there's definitely some fine tuning on that, obviously not only from the cost estimate, but specifically nailing down what is the best location and what are we actually trying to solve up there. But again, in general, the district appreciates the county's opportunity to be a part of this process over the last year and support the draft TSP. So happy to answer any questions as far as emergency services specifically in regards to the plan, and I appreciate your time.
Any questions for us?
I do. So let's just say on that Powell Butte Highway, we have a really big emergency, Russ, and it's a single lane. What's your plan of action? Will you go all the way around? And I mean, the way things are, they want to make it so it's really just moving quick. It all comes to a stop for some reason or another. We're backed up 25, 30, 40, 50 people. We got a wreck up here. How do you get to it?
So really the same way we deal with the current roundabout at the top of the hill, right? So it does have some slip lanes, but they're gated and locked, so we can't really go through them. It really depends on the emergency. So if the wreck is on Powell Butte Highway or on 126, the good news is, and that sounds weird to say it that way, traffic's gonna be stopped in both directions. And so we're just gonna use the other lane and we're just gonna drive past everybody. Lights and sirens, we'll go backwards through the roundabout.
I'm not talking about the roundabout per se. I'm saying on the whole stretch of it. You know how there's no room on each side. At times it's a straight up drop off.
Yeah.
What do you do then,
Yeah, so again, this is another great question that we've had at the Juniper Canyon, right? So there's truly only one way to go in Juniper Canyon for the last mile of Juniper Canyon Road. So there's only one way from about Lower Davis to Highway 380. And sometimes over the years, we have had vehicle wrecks that due to the significance of them have shut down that portion, that mile. And that's truly where the road shut down and general public can't go through the wreck site. The last large vehicle accident that we had there that caused that, we actually had several medical calls in Juniper Canyon, and our ambulances just drive through the wreck site. So whether that's pushing things out of the way or driving around.
And again, I'm not talking about Juniper Canyon, I'm talking about Powell Butte Highway. So me and my wife, we lived on the Powell Butte Highway.
Yeah.
Bunch of wrecks there. It was very hard, it seemed like, for emergency to respond to them because there was no room. I know Air Life, that's how, it was just a big wreck and it shut down the road for, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 hours. It was a long time.
So the road closure due to a wreck like that does not impact us. It impacts the general public who can't drive through there. But emergency services can drive through anything. So, whether that's driving the shoulder, and again, we're talking about what's the next emergency. So the good news is, I not to get too much into, tactics or anything like that, but, we do receive mutual aid and automatic aid from our partners in Bend and Redmond. And so if we were not able to get through a wreck in Powell Butte, specifically to the west side of Powell Butte, it's actually covered by Redmond and, Bend Fire's ambulance services. And so we can always call a mutual aid to have somebody come from the other direction. Quite frankly, most vehicle crashes in Powell Butte are a joint response between us and Redmond Fire. So you actually have emergency services coming from 2 different directions. But again, the wreck and the reconstruction of the wreck and the investigation that's occurring, which is the reason that the road is closed for that extended period of time, does not trump the need for us to get through that crash reconstruction because someone else is having an emergency. So those types of closures don't impact us.
I am not doubting your guys' services. You guys do a great job and thank you for, I just am scared of that road. There's just, it's a scary.
Yeah.
I mean, I was on it today. I was scared to death in the truck. It's a dangerous road and it doesn't seem like this transportation idea and me fit together with making it go faster and keeping it moving when it just seems, it's just scary.
Yeah, and I think, so to speak on the fact, I agree with you 100%. And, you've lived here a few years longer than I have, but I think we've both lived here a long time. So we've seen a lot of crazy things, out on that highway. The goal of the roundabouts is actually to slow the traffic down, which in turn allows it to be more efficient and safer. And so you get through there faster, because of the efficiencies, but you're actually traveling slower, if that makes any sense at all. It probably doesn't, because it doesn't really make sense in my brain either, but through those efficiencies and that you're not waiting at the stop sign for 20 minutes to safely pull out, you're moving slower, but you actually made it through there quicker, if that makes sense. And so I am certainly not a traffic engineer, but I do want to say that folks at Parametrics did a great job explaining a lot of this to like the steering committee that I had the opportunity to be on. So
what happened to stop lights? Are they just out? No, they were never looked at in these locations?
Aaron can speak to that, but my understanding is on these highways where you're traveling, 50 miles per hour plus, stoplights can increase traffic accidents because you're. So I used to live in Colorado, and there's a Roaring Fork Valley has a highway going through there, and they had a lot of stoplights, and those were, especially in the winter when the roads were icy, traveling really fast and having to come to a complete stop. You're going to talk about accidents. There were a lot of accidents there, and they switched from stoplights to roundabouts. But Aaron, I don't know if you want to chime in on that comment.
Yeah, so stoplights certainly have their place depending on the different types of conditions that are present. And so there is the move in certain locations to look at that intersection control evaluation. I'd mentioned that as future opportunities. But they do have, again, like John mentioned, there are safety concerns in certain locations. They can negatively influence that wait time. So for instance, at Powell Butte and 126, we know that, left turn off of Powell Butte is one of the more difficult turning movements. And so adding in those timings can be actually a negative impact on that congestion if we're looking at it from a mobility perspective. But broadly speaking, traffic lights in particular and signals, they have not only a high cost of installation, but high ongoing maintenance costs as well. So if you are to look at adding in signals, then that is a long-term commitment in terms of that maintenance cost. So from a funding perspective and a sort of sustainable funding perspective, they do have some negative implications on those future projections.
and so Kirk again, my idea about a stoplight was, what's gonna relieve congestion in downtown Powell Butte? It's just gonna constantly be. You get a stoplight, at least you'd have a little bit of a section there to let things slow down and go. Has that been part of you've looked at, or?
This is Katie. I have a clarifying question, Kirk. Are you speaking specifically about the
I'm sorry.
church and the store or?
Right.
Or
Right,
Is that
understand.
where you're
No,
looking?
I'm talking about putting a stoplight from where you go, before Powell Butte, what is the road there?
Are you going
Back
east or
road to
west?
Bend, take a left there,
Powell Butte Highway.
Powell Butte Highway at the,
Post office.
post office right there. That's where I'm thinking that, that roundabout there, I don't know. To me, that just seems like it's speeding things up to go into Powell Butte. We put a stoplight there, at least we're gonna slow it down, give the people time to be able, because it is, if you're at the Powell Butte school, guys, and you wanna get out during the times the school's in, you have to have somebody graciously let you get out there. And so to me, this plan does not solve that problem at all.
So I hear what you're saying, and, I think one thing to think about is that there is not gonna be one intersection in Powell Butte that's going to not affect the entire section of road. Any left-hand turn movement on any section of Powell Butte Highway is a dangerous turn. Any left-hand movement at all, the whole way through. However, one thing I think parametrics did a good job at, and hopefully Aaron maybe speak to this, is they looked at all the sections. They looked at the post office, they looked at Reef, they looked at the church and the school, they looked at Parish, they looked at Minson. My mom got rear-ended on Minson when we lived there, left-hand turn, right? Like the left-hand turn movements. But potentially, I think what the goal was, and this may get to it, is that by these things all together is going to affect the safety of the road. So it's not just the one roundabout and then you're free for all through the rest of it. So there's movements, and Aaron, I didn't notice in your presentation tonight, and I know I've seen it in other presentations where you talk about the different things that were looked at for the school and the turning movements in that area as well as the roundabout. Was that in this?
I think that's what she was talking about with Williams, right?
Is that Williams? I always forget the name of that.
Yeah, for many of the locations, we did look at what are the range of options that could help address some of the issues. So for instance, at 126 and Williams, so near the school and the church and the store, opportunities to, that is an ODOT roadway. So we are working within also kind of what are the guidelines for different crossings and different configurations in those locations. And so we looked at, what would it be to add turn lanes to help, alleviate some of those movements. And it still is that minor roads of the turns on to 126 that were an issue there. And so there is the known need in the future with increased volumes to have something more substantial. I believe in that location, we did do an initial assessment of would a traffic signal work there, and it does not meet the requirements for that. And then other options in looking at the addition of lanes, just how does that actually affect the movement? How does it affect safety? How does it affect the actual congestion we're seeing and the need to access different locations? And so the roundabout was put forward as an idea that does need to be looked at further in its placement, but as a way to help respond to those specific concerns. There are also, just in terms of the opportunities for crossing and the ability to help make crosswalks more visible, roundabouts are generally considered to be a positive in terms of effects for people crossing as pedestrians, which was something that if you had just the continued straight movement along 126, that was more difficult to achieve and achieve safely.
And according to your, we're not done with you, Russ, so don't
Okay.
leave, but, according to the survey, it was the Powell Butte and 126 was the price, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Since you were involved in that, Russ.
Yeah.
And there's been talk, and a lot of this I just bring up so we have it all on the record and stuff. There's a lot of talk about the four lanes on Juniper Canyon. But, and maybe Aaron, you had information on this study too, but it's my understanding 4 lanes doesn't necessarily help safety. I mean, what, was there talk about that as well, or?
So, the fire district has not weighed in on a preferred solution, really, on purpose. However, currently Juniper Canyon is an extremely wide right of way. To the point, again, where the fire district doesn't see a emergency egress safety issue. Due to the width of the current Juniper Canyon Road, the right of way that does exist, and the ability to move people around in Juniper Canyon on the other roads that do exist. Again, we would certainly support widening the drivable surface of Juniper Canyon Road, but a significant fatality vehicle crash is still gonna shut down the road.
Regardless of lanes.
Regardless, and that just has to do with the crash reconstruction and just all the things that take place after a significant crash like that. And so having a second way in off of Highway 27 makes sense in that now regardless of what happens on the one road, you can still drive up the other one. And regardless of what happens on that one, you can still drive up Juniper Canyon Road. And so if we're talking truly improving the ability or if we're talking truly about improving the efficiency at which emergency services get into Juniper Canyon. Now, remember, we have a station up there, so there's already apparatus and people up there, but we're talking about significant situations where help is coming from our main station in town. If we're talking about improving the efficiencies at which we get up there, having a way to get up there at the existing Juniper Canyon Road and being able to get up off South Main makes sense. Our main station is right here in the middle of town, so honestly, the distance is about the same for us just to go up either of those roads. And when one's compromised, the other one would be open. That again dovetails with where the goal of the TSP, one of the goals of the TSP is also to solve the congestion issue. And if anybody has driven Northeast 3rd Street at 4 o'clock going past Wild Ride, it takes you a while to get all the way down to 3rd Street to the light and then turn right on the light and then get all the way down to Juniper Canyon Road and go home. Versus if you could take half those people, a third of those people, and provide them an option to turn right at Main Street or turn right at 2nd Street coming off the grade and get through town and not on 3rd Street, you now have synergistically managed the congestion that we feel in town and really decrease the number of people on Juniper Canyon Road, which in theory will decrease the amount of accidents on Juniper Canyon Road because you've split the traffic. And so that's where, specifically talking Juniper Canyon, we have these two things. We're really talking about an efficiency and congestion on one hand, and then we have true life threat evacuation questions. And those don't necessarily aren't the same solution, I don't think. And so back to your original question, you guys all know I talk too much. Back to your original question, we certainly would support widening Juniper Canyon Road if that was the preferred solution for the county and the citizens that they landed on. I don't think that necessarily solves our current questions of when that road is compromised, what are we gonna do?
Okay.
Because when I say compromised, it's not a fire compromise. It's, we've had a vehicle crash.
Right, emergency.
And the road is shut down. What are we gonna do? We don't see that road be compromised because of fire. So,
Okay. Anything else for us? Okay. All right,
excellent. Thank you, Commissioner.
thank you. Okay, so now we're back to the applicant. And do you have anything to add, Mr. Applicant?
Not at this time.
Okay, so at this point, we will open it up for testimony. And we will first Dana, it says testimony, but it doesn't say for, or against. You just have something to say? Well, are you for the proposal or?
My name is Dan Mill, I live in Pal Butte, and I actually came prepared to talk about the solar project. But the transportation, I had a question, just one of the minor proposals about the lighting on the West Pal Butte Highway as well as Alfalfa Road. You know, you start putting lighting in ranching and farming areas, that's what we're trying to sustain out there anyway. And you have livestock on both sides of the road. The lighting would be for obviously the person driving the car so they could go faster. And we already have a huge speeding problem, just like Kirk said about getting in and out of the driveways to the Pal Butte Highway, you know, and off of 126. So even while it seems minor and it seems like a town thing to do, it's very disruptive to livestock, you know, when you're trying reproductive habits, all those kinds of things are affected by all the light. I know when Versada went in, but that was an issue, to keep lighting low, because it does affect, you know, what we're trying to do for farming and ranching practices. So even though it seems minor and a big safety thing, people just need to slow down. You've got livestock that can get out on the highway. It's just a fact of a ranching farming community. And so anyway, but oh yeah, I'll be back later about the solar project.
Okay, well, we got
Thank
you
you
anyway.
very much.
Is that all you had for in here?
I have a question. What about greater law enforcement presence? No, I don't have one. I'm getting back to what Kirk says. as
Frank, I'm
far
sorry,
as-
since I guess you're. You just know that commission, to give your name and address before you begin, sorry.
Oh, Frank Hook, from Powell Butte. I have to agree with Kurt, 126 is very dangerous. I was just thinking, what about a greater law enforcement presence? OSP, sheriff, for now.
I'll say this is a transportation planning document, and so, to a certain extent, we have to be focused on
Okay.
transportation solutions.
Okay. That was just my,
Something to bring up during one of the hearings, though, I think,
yeah.
you know. Okay, we kind of got off track there. So is there anybody that wants to speak in favor of the TSP moving forward? I need, if you're online, you can put your request in the chat. I see nothing. Okay. Is there anyone that is neutral, just wants, not really in favor or against, just wants to speak to it? Again, if you're online, just put your request in the chat. Okay, no, okay. Okay, is anybody online or in here that wants to speak in opposition of the TSP? Again, if you're online, you can put your request in the chat. I didn't have any papers here, no?
Oh. Yep. So we have a hand raised, but you'll need to put the question in the chat as, we won't be able to unmute you. So if you have a question.
From the iPad.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we have been hacked before, through Zoom meetings, so we'd love to be able to include your comments or testimony if you'd please put it through chat. What?
Is there a way to just unmute them?
Got a message.
Yes, I have questions. Okay. Oh, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, my name is Leanne Porter. My address is 3954 Southeast Riverview Road. I have a few questions. On the proposal for the 27 to Lower Davis Road going in, doesn't that adjoin into a gated community?
I don't believe so, and I assure you, if that is the route and it's constructed, it's meant for everyday traffic, it would not remain gated.
Okay, so where and when could we find that information out before this is being proposed into the TSP plan?
Those details, those specifics go into play when you get into the final planning and design phase. Which is not part of this TSP document.
Okay. And then I was hearing what Russ was saying about fire issues and a second access, and what others said about the congestion on Combs Flat as well. I just putting the road, another access off of 27, I feel like that's just going to cause another area of congestion issues. So it's concerning to bring in another area. So then we're going to have two congested areas that we're dealing with. We already have one on Combs Flat. It seems like we might be able to alleviate a little with that widening the roads there, adding the extra roads, the two lanes, I'm sorry.
I will just say, so it's important to recognize that we are, this is the Crook County Transportation System Plan, and we have jurisdiction over everything outside the city's jurisdiction. And so the city is also undergoing their transportation system plan. And so where 27 comes into town there, that is within the city, and that's part of their transportation system plan they're currently reviewing.
Okay. Could you also go over, there was that survey that was done. Could you go over those percentages again of what those were, or is there a way I can access those online?
Absolutely, those are online, and I can reach out to you later if you'd like, but I can read the survey results right now. Again, if you would like, so I think on the preferred route, the widening, as I said earlier, was at 39%. That was the top rated, and then the second highest rated was the route that's in the preferred solutions memo, and that's at 26.8%.
Well, was
the third highest is CO3, which is I can't forget which one's CO3 at 15%, and then other was also at 15%.
what was the second one again, please?
The one that is the currently in the plan.
The Highway 27, Lower Davis.
Correct.
And that was 27%?
Rounded up, yeah, 26.8.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And again, feel free to, participate in the hearing when the commissioners have it. Is there any other requests in the chat? Okay. So is there anything else you want to add? I'm looking at you as the applicant, so it's your rebuttal period.
I don't have a rebuttal, per se. I guess I'll just note that this, requires a lot of planning, it requires a lot of input from the public, from, different agencies, from professionals. There's no way that the document is going to, make everybody happy. We did get, as I said on the survey, 90% support overall for the plan. The number one survey result at 88% was the 126 Pellevue Highway intersection. The second highest on there was like 4-something%. So overall, broadly, with our outreach to the community, they're in support of the plan. They recognize the need for something to happen at Pellevue 126. As far as the minor details, not minor details, but the other details go, me as planning director, encourage everybody to come out to Board of Commissioners hearings on October 1st and October 15th. And if they have concerns or if they have questions, to come out at that point as well. This document is still a work in progress and will be until it's finalized after those hearings.
Okay. All right, so planning commission will now determine. Or do we have any requests to keep the record open? Okay. Commission will now determine if the hearing should be closed or continue to a time date certain. For additional testimony or information from staff. I don't think we need anything else from staff unless you guys do. Okay. So we can close the hearing and deliberate on the transportation system update.
Mr. Chair, I move that we close the hearing and deliberate on the transportation system plan update.
Mr. Chair, a second.
Okay, any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. Kurt?
Nay.
George?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay. So we now deliberate.
All right.
Okay, so basically then, is there things that we want to add in our, letting the commissioners know that we're pushing this towards them to take it from there? So do you got some thoughts there?
I don't have anything specific. I'm fine with recommending that we move this to Board of County Commissioners for their subsequent hearing.
Arlo, did you have something?
I was probably a little brash about the cost on the gravel road. And I think that could be looked into at a later date. I finally have my head around the fact that this is getting the ball rolling and this ball needs to be rolling quickly because we have grown so fast. And they have put an excellent report together. There's a lot of information in there. And your mind can go in all these different directions and they've brought it back to this is getting a plan in place, getting it started, getting it moving forward. And the items of concern are at the top on my list too, that intersection at Pellevue and there at Juniper Canyon. So I would be for moving this forward.
Okay.
My only concern would be, looking at the Highway 380 to Juniper Canyon route, just due to large logging trucks and everything. It may be hard taking that left on some of those, presented options there. For anybody trying to get up to 380 to Juniper Canyon, or coming in from town, up the Planner.
I wish that it wasn't done 7 years ago. That's all. Things have changed in 7 years in Prineville especially. So, but I think they did a great job and I appreciate her time and the hard work that went into it. I'm just gonna have a hard time getting behind it.
So, I mean, we really don't have anything other than our comments we want them to look at. How do you want that proposed, I guess?
So we're not suggesting any changes.
No, not suggesting, but we'd like to take these additional considerations. I think maybe just making sure that the exhibits are considered in their decisions and this is a little different.
So the general motion would be, motion to recommend, the TSP as drafted to the Board of Commissioners. I suppose you could say supplemented with the, comments on the record by the Planning Commission.
That's why I'm looking at you.
All right, well, I will move that, we recommend to the Board of County Commissioners that they consider our comments on the draft transportation system plan. And proceed with their process for hearings. Good enough?
Gets us there.
Okay,
I would second.
all right, we have had a motion and a second, and we'll further discussion.
Is that the bad comments too, or?
That would be all
Yeah.
comments.
It's the record.
All
Okay.
the record.
I'm not bad comments, but
No, concern.
concerning.
Concern.
Thank you,
I don't
yeah,
think there's any
yeah,
bad comments,
yeah,
they're concerns,
yeah.
legitimate concerns. Okay, I'll call for the vote. Kurt,
Yay,
Aye.
Merle,
aye.
Hunter,
All right.
okay.
Did you vote?
As chair, I don't vote unless it's tied.
Mhm,
Is that true?
that's true.
Oh, when did that start?
How long have you been here?
Guess I haven't been paying attention. This is George.
Okay, so with that, we have community updates. Is there any
I don't think we have much since,
since the last time?
the work session last time. We don't have any new numbers. Those could come probably maybe at the next meeting. So, what updates do we have? It's hard to see past today.
It was hard to see past today, I'll give them that much. We do have a really packed schedule for you guys, from here to, looking like February now, just gonna be honest with you. You did get an, email from Hannah regarding an additional meeting date in October. Again, I think we have, everyone responded. If you haven't, please reach out. She'll be back next week, so be able to, do all the wrangling on that side of things. But again, we're looking at 2 to 3 hearings items per meeting from here until probably February. So if you do have something come up, just let us know. Oh, thank you all.
Okay. If that, is that all you guys have? Okay, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved.
Okay, motion is second, any discussion? All those in favor, just say aye. Aye.
Bye.
Meeting adjourned.